continues in a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website, force13.com, our YouTube page, youtube.com/Force13, on Facebook under the same name, Force13, and our Twitter handle, it's @Force13 if you wish to get in touch. You can also add Force13 on Skype, and my personal account on Discord, Fool13, at extension 9094. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Alright, there we go, it's working now. This is Force 13 Live, Tropical Weather Update. We're tracking a whole ton of things right now. Typhoon Mangkhut is now a Category 5 in the Philippine Sea and continues to intensify. Hurricane Florence is still a Category 4 according to the National Hurricane Center's latest advisory that you can see on the screen right now. And the breaking news this hour is that hurricane watches have been issued for Guadeloupe and Martinique, as well as... which one was it? Leighton, can you tell us? Hold on, let me fade you up.
Well, it's not long on the National Hurricane Center.
Dominica, also under a hurricane watch, and a tropical storm watch for Antigua and Montserrat. That's the latest news from Tropical Storm Isaac. So there's a lot going on. Also, Hurricane Olivia, or Tropical Storm Olivia as it is now, is approaching the Hawaiian Islands. Tropical storm warnings for the Big Island and Maui County. I think Oahu is still under a watch. My name's Nathan Foy, joining you live in this crazy hour that we've begun. And we're camped in here at Force 13 HQ for the 4th day in a row because the storm situation has called upon it. And all these graphics that you see on the screen here will update on their own as we go through. So we'll get to see the graphic as soon as it's ready. Except Olivia's, which I have to do manually because they change the link every time, believe it or not. But I'll let you know the latest on Olivia. They think it's weakened a little more, actually, at the latest update. 5 AM Hawaiian Standard Time. That's now, isn't it?
Yeah, that'll be the latest one.
Yep, so it remains the same. Oahu is under a tropical storm warning, yes, and a tropical storm watch for Kauai County as well. So there's loads of things that we're tracking right now this Tuesday, and also a new tropical storm that developed in the Western Pacific last night, Barijat, which is moving into the South China Sea ahead of Typhoon Mangkhut, and could strike southern China, Hainan Island and Vietnam as a weak tropical storm. Here is the big picture right now, looking at the whole Atlantic basin. You can see the 2 hurricanes and Tropical Storm Isaac and 2 other areas of interest. 60% chance in the next 5 days for Invest 95L, the one that's located in the Western Caribbean, and also another system further north that could develop. Tropical Depression Paul is looking terrible in the Eastern Pacific, and that's not going to threaten any areas of land.
Paul's not even worth mentioning at this point. It's just been a waste of a name.
Oh dear. And there's Olivia in the Central Pacific, not too far from the Hawaiian Islands. Now, if you've got any questions for us during this hour, we're here to serve because it's a very important time for a lot of places around the world right now as we look at all of these storms that are currently out there. So we're here to take questions from any side of the world, whether you're in North Carolina looking out at these 95% chances of tropical storm conditions in the next 5 days. It's not looking good. Whether you're in the Caribbean on one of those islands, whether you are in the Philippines looking out for Typhoon Mangkhut, which could impact later on in the week, whether you're in Hawaii, or whether you're in Vietnam. I've seen some people from there as well overnight coming into the hours of today. You can see the percentage chance of tropical storm conditions flying by as we look here. 44% in Dominica, that's the highest of those islands at the minute. Those graphics will change a little bit later on. And there's the chances in the Philippines. 78% in Santa Ana, 79% on the Calayan Islands, and 64% on the Batanes Islands. And you can see the JMA cone there on the right hand side of the screen as well. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, as some people have already done. Anything in Fayetteville, North Carolina for Florence is the first question we've got today, Leighton. And the answer I can tell you is probably yes. Let's see if I can take a look at what the latest wind probabilities are on that now. And so, you know, high chance of tropical storm force winds, and the key messages will be important to you as it will be to many areas along the coast of North Carolina. Let me read them out as we begin this hour. A life-threatening storm surge is likely along portions of the coastlines of South Carolina, North Carolina and Virginia, and a storm surge watch has been issued for a portion of this area. All interests from South Carolina into the Mid-Atlantic region should ensure they have their hurricane plan in place and follow any advice given by local officials. Life-threatening freshwater flooding is likely from a prolonged and exceptionally heavy rainfall event, which may extend inland over the Carolinas and Mid-Atlantic for hundreds of miles, as Florence is expected to slow down as it approaches the coast and moves inland. Damaging hurricane-force winds are likely along portions of the coasts of South Carolina and North Carolina, and a hurricane watch has been issued for a part of this area. Damaging winds could also spread well inland into portions of the Carolinas and Virginia. And finally, large swells affecting Bermuda, which is only 380 miles away, and portions of the US East Coast will continue this week, resulting in life-threatening surf and rip currents. You can see the hurricane watch zone. It's the same as the storm surge watch zone, and that is from Edisto Beach to the North Carolina-Virginia border, including the Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds. And the storm surge watch just extends to include the Neuse and Pamlico rivers. Leighton, you've been watching this morning, I'm guessing. Your first thoughts today on Florence?
It massively went under some kind of eyewall.
There's me,
collapse.
hello. Wasn't supposed to show myself just there. Go ahead.
Oh god, I forgot what I was going to say now, thanks.
Your thoughts on Florence today?
Oh yeah, the northern eye wall completely collapsed earlier, and it massively became shocking on satellite. It seems to be improving again now though. It weakened to a low-end category 4. Recon was supposed to be in there for 6 hours, but had to leave after 2 hours because it had some sort of failure or something. There was an issue with the recon, it barely got a second passing. The latest on that was, I think, an hour or two ago now, and I had it as a low-end category 4.
Yeah.
Pressure just started deepening again at that point, so it's possible it might already be intensifying again. We just don't know because the recon had to leave the storm.
Interesting.
There is another plane scheduled to do its first fix around 1730Z.
It looks to me as though it's maintaining on satellite.
Yeah, it looks like it's maintaining.
You say Recon was leaving at that time or arriving at the storm?
Arriving for its first fix on a new mission at 1730Z.
So that's in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So Recon will arrive back in Florence in 2 hours. It looks to me as though it's maintaining intensity on this imagery here. A bit of a flare-up on the southeastern side.
Yes, massive flare-up. And also, I don't know if you're aware or not, but there's now a 1 minute floater on Isaac as well.
Could you show us that at all?
I had it loading.
Okay. I don't know. Also with us today, I believe it's Tyler, is it? I don't know if he wants to speak at this time.
He's in class the last time, though.
Here is a look at Isaac.
Yeah, this float has been up for around 4 hours now, I think.
So we'll take every question that you've got as best to our ability, from all parts, all corners of the world as it is at the minute, because we've got everything going on, and we have plenty of them now. What do you think about the thunderstorm activity above Western Africa, and could something develop there in the next days?
I'm not seeing any model support, but the wave does look very interesting. It's very elongated, but it has been producing sporadic, very deep convection, and then waning for several days now since it formed.
Prince Yap is commenting from the Philippines. Do you think there's any chance Mangkhut will move down a little to Manila? Not likely. At the moment, only a 7% chance of storm conditions in Manila. I think no, even if it moves south considerably, it would be a huge stretch to take it all the way down to Manila. It is very improbable, probably impossible. What are the chances of Florence becoming a Category 5? Leighton, having seen the mess that Florence has been in the last few hours, would you rule it out now? You knew that question was coming.
There's still models that do it. The HMON itself has started doing it now in about 2 days, and then stays Category 5 for about 12 hours, then weakens it considerably before landfall. That's the only model I really see it taking it to Category 5.
Let's show the HMON model on the screen now. Here it is. This is a HMON model from 6Z, and 12Z's on the model should be out pretty soon.
Yeah, they should be coming out in about an hour or two.
And you can see that it says that the storm will be a Category 5 in the next 2 days, but then weaken afterwards and will only strike, it looks to me, as a minimal Category 3 landfall there.
I saw winds around 85 knots at landfall.
But I
it
must
does fall
say...
off the coast.
Oh, right. I must say...
There's
in
quite
fact,
a few models.
let me show... This might help people more as well, if it works. The radar... Simulated radar. Yeah, they do that now. Simulated radar reflectivity on Florence according to the HMON model. This isn't real. This is a prediction. And you can see how it's going here, what we're talking about now. This is 24 hours from this morning, so we're talking early hours of Wednesday here, later hours of Wednesday, early hours of Thursday, afternoon on Thursday, really starting to disintegrate a little. Ooh. And that's Thursday night into the early hours of Friday morning, and it weakens so quickly as it makes that landfall. That frame there, it's at 100 miles an hour, and the following frame, which is early hours of Friday, it's only at 70 miles an hour. That is just one scenario from the models. We'll look at plenty more later on. I just showed that one because I had it close to hand. But there's so many things to discuss. Oh, there's the latest map from the National Hurricane Center showing Isaac as we bring it back. So you can see the hurricane watch zone there. Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, and tropical storm watches. Antigua and Barbuda and St. Kitts by the looks of things.
Possibly. Don't know if Nevis is included or not.
Yeah, probably included in that. St. Kitts and Nevis probably all included in there. And you can see why the hurricane watch is out. It's because the National Hurricane Center thinks that Isaac will reach hurricane status briefly, although curiously it actually weakens it again before reaching the islands. They're just playing it safe, obviously. And I think, you know, Leighton, I think it's quite late that they've put these watches out.
Yeah, it does look like it's going to hit in about 2 days.
I mean, they usually do it 3 days out these days.
Yeah. They usually do it about 3 days out, and then the warnings come about 48 hours before. They're taking extreme caution with these storms.
I'll get a new update on the Olivia one shortly. Here's Florence. What were you saying?
I said it's good in a way, but it's also bad in a way. If that even makes sense.
Well, I guess. You can see how expansive the hurricane watch is. It covers pretty much the entire cone, and uncertainty is going to rise with this because it still appears as though the storm is going to stall before, during, or after landfall. We've no idea which. But you saw one scenario from the HMON just then, in that it was sort of during. Let's see if we can take a look at what the latest HWRF model says. That'll be just a moment here. So the HWRF has a worse case by the looks of things. So here it is beginning on Florence. So this is this morning, this afternoon, tomorrow morning, Category 4, holding on to it there, tomorrow evening, Thursday morning, it's still a Category 4, 140 miles per hour, Thursday evening, still a Category 4, just off the coast, overnight slowing down, making landfall with winds of about 90 miles per hour. And that's on Friday morning, and Friday morning it moves in, and as you can see it moves very slowly into South Carolina. So yeah, based off that information, the rainfall expectations are rising substantially in North Carolina. HWRF thinks it could be as high as 46 inches now.
Oof. It's quite interesting to note that most of the models now stall it near or just over the coast. It's quite an interesting change from 24 hours ago.
And, oh dear, this is what the HWRF says about Isaac. It rapidly intensifies into a Category 4 just before reaching Haiti. Category 3.
HWRF.
Ignore the end part. Just concentrate on the middle part. Now that would be probably one of the worst case scenarios for the Lesser Antilles there if it was to strike as a Category 1. It shouldn't get any stronger than that, but still that's a hurricane threat there, and that's why the Hurricane Watch is out. That's according to the HWRF. Let's see what it says for Mangkhut. Here it is, and to be honest, the models are quite far behind on that because it's intensifying so quickly. Let's run back and take a look at some of your questions. Will Mangkhut damage Taiwan badly? Well, at the minute, models are suggesting that Taiwan will only get tropical storm force winds and maybe typhoon force gusts. It doesn't look at the moment as though Taiwan will get the worst from Mangkhut. Let's see, what else do we have? Start your message with Force 13. We've got plenty on this. Is there any other storms headed for the Philippines other than Mangkhut? Well, you've got Typhoon Barijat further towards the Philippines right now. Are you just looking on the screen at the latest graphic? Let's just go back to that there as we're talking about it. On Olivia, you can see how close the storm's getting now. 65 miles an hour at the latest advisory. The storm getting very close to the islands. Advisory number 44. So is it beating Irma? Not quite. Irma? I'm thinking it's Irma. Florence, 49 on that one. Irma did have a lot of advisories. Oh, and just before I go away, the wind field there. If you've been watching closely, the southwestern wind field is much larger now in Florence.
Yeah, I noticed that in the recon earlier before they had to dive out of the storm. That wind field is still expanding.
And just to get the HWRF impression on Barijat, it looks like this. No threat to the Philippines, no warnings out there, but it could get close to Hong Kong and China and Vietnam possibly as a tropical storm. Now that is something I haven't checked at this time, whether there are any warnings over in Hong Kong. The viewers will probably tell me before I even get there. But I expect that there may be some. There is a 1. Stage 1. Standby signal number 1 for Hong Kong. Just in case you wanted to know. And I'm assuming Macau might have similar warnings out because they usually are in sync with each other. But I'm unable to get there at this moment in time. Just trying to get all of the information as we have it here. There is so much to keep people on top of right now. More questions. Any effects on Taipei in regards to Mangkhut? I would say very unlikely. Probably not at all.
Taipei is way too far south for that.
North.
North.
It looks like Isaac will be way below Puerto Rico. Any chances of it changing route? It seems pretty close. Now, some models were suggesting that it may go up there earlier. I'm not sure what they're saying now. Let's see if we can just get the latest from one of the model guidance websites, just to give you the latest. And it should be here. This is for Isaac right now. And you can see only the nav gem being an outlier there, taking the storm over the Virgin Islands. No landfalls on Puerto Rico forecasted by any of those models there. But they do, I mean, half of those models do want to recurve at some point, whether it's over Hispaniola or goes towards Jamaica and Cuba. or through the Bahamas, or it goes straight through towards the Yucatan Peninsula and into the Gulf of Mexico. So
it really depends on its intensity as to where it goes, really.
yeah,
Because a stronger storm will go further north, and a weak one will just go further west. The same ridge that's pushing Florence eventually into North Carolina is pushing Isaac to the west, because it's a weaker system. I mean, as we saw by Florence, a stronger hurricane will just break down that ridge and go into it. But if it's weak, it'll just follow the periphery of it.
What do you make of Mangkhut right now? It's looking very good.
I'm thinking currently 165 miles an hour. If it keeps going, I'm going to say 175.
Well, that's what we ran with at the top of the hour. We think it's 165 miles per hour. That is roughly 265 kilometers per hour. Olivia's looking pretty disheveled.
Yeah, recon data on its last fix pulled out 1,005 millibars, so I don't know where they got 999
minimum
from.
Really?
Yeah, the drop song got 1,005
wow,
on the last
poor.
pass. I don't know where they got the 999 from. Because that was like from an hour before, like 2 passes before the last pass.
I'm just trying to get a latest Himawari image as we keep looking at Force 13's automated system showing all of the graphics going by. The breaking news, if you've just joined us this hour, is that a hurricane watch has been issued for many of those Lesser Antilles, 3 islands in particular, Martinique, Dominica and Guadeloupe, and a tropical storm watch has been issued for some islands further towards the north, St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua. Did it include Barbuda? No, I don't think it did.
Dunno.
And there's Helene as well, if you were wondering. They don't predict major hurricane status anymore, but they do take it very close to the Azores as a tropical storm, so that's another land-threatening storm in the long run.
Oh god.
And there's the latest graphical stuff on Isaac. You can see the 5-day forecast from National Hurricane Center taking it very direct through towards the west. And that's one to watch very closely.
I'm trying to find the recon data from the last pass through Olivia.
I'm trying to find any up-to-date imagery that works in our format here. Well, there is this. This is a recent image from the Himawari 8 satellite. When was this from? That was 2:30 UTC, so that was an hour ago. That's how the storm looked, and let's see if we can do a little bit of investigating in this storm right now. According to satellites, the eye temperature around 17 degrees Celsius, and that's higher than it was earlier. I'm just putting this picture together to see if we can get a latest satellite estimate on the storm right now, which would be helpful. We take a look at the weakest part of the eye wall. It's still around minus 74 degrees. The colder the cloud tops you get around the eye, it denotes a stronger storm, and the minimum there in the very small pink outline is minus 80. So overall it's still very consistent with 165 miles per hour. So we're watching a lot of systems right now, and a lot of them have warnings out in effect, so forgive us if we're not concentrating on what you're interested in for a few minutes at a time, because there are lots of things going on. The latest from the JMA, the Japan Meteorological Agency, on Mangkhut is that the storm has winds of about 120 miles an hour or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. 10-minute winds of 110.
10-minute winds.
915.
So you put that into 1 minute winds, that's only still about 140, which isn't very high. And the pressure of 915, and they expect the pressure to go down to 900
Yeah.
in 3 days.
They only predicted to have 10-minute winds of 130 miles an hour at that point.
You know, I don't get their... No one really gets their wind estimates. They are often very low indeed.
The JMA does like to go conservative quite a lot of the time with winds.
Alright, well, shall we go and take a look at some models? I can present them. I just want to know if you want to join me.
The only models I've seen are the HMON and HWRF.
So the 6 AM models as depicted on the Tropical Tidbits website here, which is what everyone else does when they're on the stream, but because we have no one available, I'm doing it. And we're waiting for the spinny thing to stop spinning so that we'll be able to see the latest or the last GFS model run. So this is what it says about Florence. Moving in towards land.
Do you want to do Florence and I'll do Isaac?
Sure. Late on Thursday, you can see it just about reaching the Outer Banks and deepening further. Now, that pressure is very speculative. The GFS has a very bad reputation these days on completely blowing up every storm to a ridiculous pressure. We're really talking about maybe Category 4 maximum there. And then I'll just focus more on the track more than anything. And then stalling. And then moving back southwest and making a landfall in South Carolina. How about that? Borderline hurricane there. Tropical storm possibly. And then still stalling for a few more days and being picked up over the Delmarva Peninsula. This is next Wednesday. And then finally moving out to sea.
Oh my.
That's just one model, and if you're interested about 95L in this as well, GFS does not develop it. Let's take a look at the ECMWF. This is the European model, also known as... which one do we go to? I guess we could look at it in this format. It certainly shows off the high pressure that's built up further north in Canada and over the Great Lakes. So this is now. This is Florence in a day's time. Sorry, this is still the midnight run from earlier last night. So you can see it moving through there. And it calls for a straightforward... Nope, not a straightforward landfall. It's stalling the storm just along the coast of North Carolina as well. At least for a day, and then moving inland. And then taking it right up through Ohio and off towards the northeast. So that's another one that's not straightforward. Stalling the storm as it makes landfall. You can just about make out a very weak signature there making landfall in southern Texas. That is 95L. Looks like a very weak system, tropical depression at best. The FV3 GFS, what's the difference, Leighton?
The FV3 GFS is the prototype of the next generation of the GFS that goes operational at the end of this year.
Right, so we better hope that this is better than the normal GFS then.
It does seem to be performing better, I've noticed.
Okay, take your word for it. So this is what it's saying. And this is into the late hours of Thursday, early hours of Friday. Yes, slowing down, weakening, stalling on the coast, and then moving inland again. And what's that behind it? I don't know whether that's Isaac or Helene that moves over Bermuda.
Probably Isaac, because Helene's forecast to go over to the east.
Alright, we better zoom out. Let's look at the whole picture. What on earth was that? Let's just go and see that again. Gotta wait for everything to load, sadly. That means everyone else is waiting too.
There's a
so you can
lot
see
of traffic.
these four systems. And you can see Isaac moving through, slowly but surely. So Helene on the bottom right, and on the top right is a new system that could develop in the next few days. The National Hurricane Center has tagged.
It's 10:50 at the moment.
And it's actually another system that forms independent of the one the NHC has, I think. Or it might be that one.
I think it's the same system.
And moving through Bermuda. And then moving off. Crazy. Well, that's a crazy model run. Isaac, by the way, incidentally weakens, or stays weak. Still just about recognisable into the Bay of Campeche, moving into Mexico, but doesn't ever get to tropical depression status after it weakens in the Western Caribbean. Let's go back to the US view, because you're going to be showing Isaac shortly. The nav gem looks a bit like this. And this is most curious. The storm stalls a bit further out, about the same area that Diana stalled at, really, in regards to distance from the coast, and then moves inland over South Carolina.
Interesting.
So that's another one. The Icon model. We're just blasting through these as quick as it will allow us to load the imagery. So you can see it again there, stalling over North Carolina. And you could also see probably a weak tropical storm making landfall in southern Texas, possibly the Corpus Christi area. That's the Icon model. The CMC, which I did skip over. Maybe we should have just skipped over it. But from what I'm seeing here, Leighton,
Yeah.
am I seeing things, or are all these models predicting a weaker storm?
Out of Isaac.
Out of Florence.
They do seem to be weakening on the 06 model.
This is 0 actually.
0.
This is 12 hourly on the CMC. Again, stalling off the outer banks and then moving inland over North Carolina. Isaac reaches western Cuba as a tropical storm, and that could develop into a hurricane on approach to Louisiana and Texas there on that forecast. According to the CMC, though, that is one of the most aggressive model runs in the world. The JMA model. Let's try and get this one here. Is a little less in resolution. Where even is Florence? Oh, there it is. And Florence arrives in North Carolina, and looks like it's stalling there again. So, you know, it's pretty, according to most of the models, it's pretty, we've got a consensus there that it's going to slow down significantly when it arrives in North Carolina. But at what intensity is the biggest question, right?
Yeah. There's quite a lot of uncertainty with that.
There's also the NAM as well. And you can see the NAM model, or you will be able to see shortly, where we can only see the end of it. Well, there it is on Friday. The storm's stalling, and I don't even think it makes a landfall. It's very close. Stalling offshore. It goes there, and then it just stops. And then it slowly edges northeast.
What the heck? These models are losing their minds.
I don't know. Crazy models at the minute. But that's how it is with those right now. Do you want to show us Isaac? But in the meantime, you know, these models, a lot of them showing a weaker storm, but some of them still having it as a category 4 when it strikes. I think
for some of the models to load.
I think, you know, it's going to be, I think we're still looking at rainfall. Alright, whilst we're waiting for that, let's just go back to the GFS. In fact, the 12 Zulu run has just initialized, and we'll get more information on that one as soon as we get more information. We'll just go back to the 6 though. Let's go and take a look at total accumulated precipitation as we watch Florence go in and strike North Carolina. So, the yellows, when it goes yellow, that's 2 feet. And already, just as it arrives, it already goes to 2 feet of rain over North Carolina. And over that whole picture there, huge amounts of rainfall, probably in excess of 30 inches on the Outer Banks, up to 2 feet, 24 inches in southern North Carolina. And inland, quite some way, a foot of rain or more. So if you're looking for more inland states, Tennessee, only the extreme eastern part of Tennessee looks like it will get significant amounts of rain. Same with Kentucky as well. Same with Ohio.
That's good considering Gordon was just causing mass chaos.
Yeah, Gordon did cause chaos indeed. You can also see that Texas and Louisiana are staying pretty wet there as well in the next 9 days, that is. Expecting another 5 inches. And most of that occurs in the next 5 days. So that's something else to be looking at as well. But we're covering many great things tonight, or today, depending where you are around the world. Of course, it is still in the morning in the US. In the Philippines, it's late evening, and we're watching Typhoon Mangkhut as well, a Category 5 on our estimates. Over to Leighton.
Yeah, I want some fun time with this goddamn mouse. It keeps like not around everything. Just get over there. Right, I'm here. This is the H1 for Isaac. It only covers the storm itself, so forgive me if I don't know my land areas. But yeah, pretty decent at the start of the run. May intensify slightly in the run as it goes through, and then it starts weakening as it approaches. Oh my god! As it approaches 60 west.
Right. There's the islands.
Yeah, it moves through the islands, maybe some intensification as it moves through. And then it starts weakening again. As it approaches 70 west. What the heck is it doing here?
You tell me.
I don't know if that's some sort of glitch on that, but it takes it north and it suddenly shoots it east.
Yep, that
and then
must
shoots
be a
it back
glitch.
to the west. What? But that's moving south of Hispaniola towards eastern Cuba. Oh my god, what is wrong with me?
Yeah, I mean, Cuba should be watching out for this as well, for that potential recurve.
Yes. The
But,
HWRA.
yeah. Well, we saw that one. Move on.
Oh, you've showed that one. The GFS. I can't show the vorticity on this one, so... yeah, initializes it quite weak, actually. Pretty, interesting. So this one might be a bit of an outlier. Intensifies it slightly regardless, and then suddenly weakens it as it goes to the islands. Then it becomes off-centered, and it's not even on the screen anymore. Okay then. What are you doing, GFS? Get alive!
Well, there it goes.
Okay, that's useless.
Wonderful.
Mic drop. Mic drop.
The FV3, the experimental.
Which moves Isaac through the islands and intensifies it slightly. And then starts weakening it. Maybe it opens up into a tropical wave there. As it continues to the west. And begins to recurve towards the northwest. Still as a weak tropical wave probably before moving into the Yucatan and dissipating. The Euro. Oh my god, it's not even in the right region, what the heck.
Okay.
Okay, then while that one loads, move to the icon.
The icon model.
Which initialized Isaac way too weak, so this one might be an interesting run. But regardless, it moves it west throughout the first few days, through the islands, and deepens it some regardless.
even manages to form a quick depression off the Texas coast and move that inland as a possible weak tropical storm. As it re-intensifies Isaac into a tropical storm in the Caribbean. Oh my god, I ain't got any drink. Oh my god, today's not my day.
Today isn't anyone's day.
Oh god. Possibly making it a hurricane again as it passes to south of Haiti towards, and maybe even over the northern coast of Jamaica there and towards Cuba. And then all of a sudden shoots it like 5 degrees to the west. What?
Magically appears in the Cayman Islands.
Takes it into the Yucatan, possibly.
A lot of uncertainty around that, but do you think that it's pretty likely that it's going to be weak by then? Or do you think it will?
It's going to be anything by then.
Right.
The shear is so high over the Caribbean.
Right, okay. That's interesting to know.
Right, now the Euro's loaded. Initialised Isaac a little weak, but that's 0Z. Which is pretty interesting, to be honest, considering it was a hurricane then. But regardless, it intensifies it as it moves towards the islands before suddenly weakening it and continuing it west. There's a tropical wave by the looks of things. Moves it straight into Belize and dissipates it. Doesn't even pay any attention to the system off the Texas coast. And now for the model everyone's dreading. The CMC, which has a tropical... Oh my god. Tropical depression, seriously?
Well, GFS is worse sometimes.
Oh my god, this is... Regardless, it intensifies and it's a tropical storm. What? Oh my god.
Well, that's great.
Regardless, I can use the track which just takes it straight to the west and then takes it up into Haiti.
That's also a possibility.
Between Jamaica and Cuba, over parts of southern Cuba. In fact, it takes it straight across Cuba into the Gulf and intensifies it again, maybe into a hurricane as it approaches the what looks to be the Louisiana coast there.
Oh man. Really? Well, there we go. That's another one that we'll be watching. Let's go to the Western Pacific. This is what the Westpac looks like. Let's get it more central on the screen. So the GFS first of all. Now, the GFS, as I keep saying, is ridiculously aggressive when it comes to pressure readings, so ignore it. If you believe this, you'll believe anything. So here it is moving through, and it thinks that it will be 868 millibars off the northern Philippine coast. If you believe that, you're welcome to, and I'll say that you'll believe anything. But
brilliant.
That's not going to happen. But it could still be a Category 4 or 5 when it does move through the Luzon Strait. And that's what the GFS is predicting there. It could also be a serious threat to Hong Kong. And it makes landfall just west of there according to the GFS model and moves inland straight away and weakens. After that, there may be one or two other weaker systems and possibly a typhoon moving off, recurving off the coast of Japan. Won't be getting close enough to cause any problems. That is very long range though. The ECMWF, let's just see what it's saying here for the West Pacific. Okay, well, nothing. We can see the end of it. Okay, we're going backwards. Yeah, pretty much the same. There's the storm moving through the northernmost part of Luzon, through the islands just offshore, and another potential threat to Hong Kong. And after that, nothing. The FV3 GFS, which is apparently better. Oh no, we didn't do the West Pacific for that one. Okay. That's still in the US only.
That only does the Atlantic and East Pacific at the moment.
Alright, the CMC.
I think it goes operational at the end of this year. I'm not completely sure.
The CMC develops a lot more storms than any of the other models.
Oh, brilliant.
And this time is no exception.
Why am I not surprised? Oh, wait, it's been doing it for years.
Yeah, it might load in a day or two.
They seriously need to reprogram the GFS. This is a massive issue.
You mean the CMC?
Both of them.
Both of them.
Although I suppose the VF3 is the reprogramming of the GFS, but still, CMC, get your act together. Or get lost.
So here it is. You can see the storm moving through Mangkhut again. And I think that's actually Olivia coming in on the right hand side. Don't tell me she's going to make it into the West Pacific again.
Oh, God.
Another one this year.
That's what, the third one there?
And you can see Barishat, I think it is.
Mm.
Weakening, staying pretty weak. Mangkhut moving through. I can't show you any other frames because they're still not loading. And the CMC predicts another system will form near the Mariana Islands. It's the only model doing this.
I mean, it's possible.
And possibly
Oh, right.
another system near the Mariana Islands. That is Invest 91W. That is there at the minute. I don't know if that's still there on that one.
Yeah. 91W.
No, it's something behind it. 91W doesn't form on the CMC run, and something behind it does. And then you've got Olivia, which is just about to cross the date line. There it is moving through, and it does redevelop. Oh dear, oh dear.
GFS,
CMC, crazy. Alright.
Right.
At least we show you everything. The nav gem. Again, we're going to have to retrace our steps and go backwards here. You can see Mangkhut making its final landfall there near Macau. And a whole lot of nothing else.
Yeah, if Tropical Tidbits takes a while to load, it's because it's under high pressure from all the traffic checking on Florence.
So there's probably going to be taking the same track. I don't want to wait any longer because everyone's going to get bored stiff. So that is everything to do with that. And if you've just checked in on the latest storm chances right now, these graphics that I'm showing may be slightly out of date, but I doubt it will have changed very much. Let me read out the latest chances of tropical storm conditions in all of these locations for Florence. New York City 3%, Newark 4, Trenton 7, Allentown 5, Philadelphia 9, Atlantic City 11, Baltimore 17, Annapolis 21, Washington DC 25, Ocean City 31, Charlottesville 38, Richmond Virginia 51, Norfolk 61, Elizabeth City 74, Greensboro 55, Raleigh 75, Cape Hatteras 93% chance of tropical storm conditions, Fayetteville 81, Charlotte 41, Cherry Point 95, New River 99, Morehead City 99, may as well be 100, Surf City 93, Wilmington 90, Florence, South Carolina 63, Columbia 36, Myrtle Beach 81, Georgetown 63, Charleston 43, Atlanta, Georgia 5%, Augusta 21, Savannah 20, and Jacksonville, Florida 5% chance of tropical storm conditions in the next 5 days for Florence. For Isaac, it reads like this. Percent chances in the next 5 days of tropical storm conditions. Montego Bay in Jamaica 6%, Kingston 3, Port-au-Prince in Haiti 11%, Puerto Plata 7%, Santo Domingo 6%, San Juan, Puerto Rico 8%, Vieques 19%, St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands 17%, St. Croix 24%, St. Martin 17%, St. Kitts and Nevis 28%, Barbuda 22%, Antigua 30%, Guadeloupe 46%, Dominica 51%, Martinique 46%, St. Lucia 32%, St. Vincent 20%, Barbados 18%, Grenada 8%, Trinidad and Tobago 4%. And also for Olivia, this shouldn't take as long. The wind speed probabilities look like this. Kona 26, Kahului 48, Hana 63, Lanai City 65, Kona Kakai 58, Honolulu 22, Lihue 13, and Niihau 11, and Nihoa 6. Johnston Island also 3%. So that's pretty much everything. And we're almost at the end of the hour as well, so let's take any questions that you've got for us right now. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. We're here till the end of this hour with discussion on the storm. And just to remind you of our schedule, we have more updates later on today. We have a update on Florence coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. An update on Mangkhut will follow 1 hour later. That will be at 4 a.m. Philippine time, and we will be live again talking about the latest on everything at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So in the meantime, after we go off the air in a few moments, the stream will remain running with all of the visual graphics, which will be automatically updated, and that is a very... I'd like to think that a lot of people find that tool interesting. You can also see Invest 95L on the left hand side there, 30% chance in the next 48 hours, 50%, 60% in the next 5 days. And there's Tropical Depression Paul.
Yeah, let's not even call it a tropical depression anymore.
Sorry state of affairs with that one. And Olivia, which has a tropical storm warning for Oahu, Maui County and Hawaii County, and a tropical storm watch for Kauai County. And I'll just read off a few places in the Philippines with latest percentage chances, not just the Philippines, but everywhere, for Mangkhut right now. Just stand by just 1 minute on this. So the latest percentages in Virac on Catanduanes, that's way off to the south, there is just a 7% chance there. Dayet, which is further into Luzon, that's about 8%. Manila, which I'm sure a lot of people are watching from, that's about 8% chance as well of tropical storm force winds. And then you look further north. I'm not quite familiar with the places in between, but the places further north in Luzon, Santa Ana right on that northern tip, we're talking about something like 80% there now. Apari, which is just off over to the west, that's about 76%. And if you're talking about Basco on the Batanes Islands, that is now down a little bit to 58%, which is different to what those graphics are saying. Those graphics will be updated with the numbers I just read out in a few moments after we finish the coverage. You can see on the bottom right hand side the East Coast graphic, Florence starting to appear on that one now as well. And I just wonder if there's any new images of Mangkhut. Not at this time, so I'll go and grab the latest imagery of Florence to show you as we finish up this hour. But if you've got any questions for us just before we take another break, we'll of course leave you with all the visible images, and some of our team will be ready and waiting to answer your questions in the text as well, so that's very nice. But we can go more in depth when we talk about it on the air. Here's the latest image of Florence. Well, there it is on the screen, but I'm just going to show GOES 16 now as well. There it is, the latest imagery of Hurricane Florence, and this is pretty much almost up to the minute. The last image on this is 6 minutes ago, and now it's just loading the rest of the images to comprise a loop that we can show you here. Chances of typhoon conditions in Hong Kong. Yes, I was supposed to say that. Up to around 30% now. And I'll just take you back to that shortly. The percentage chances in Hong Kong actually higher now, up to 38%. Kaohsiung in southern Taiwan, that is about, that chances there are going down a little bit, about 28%. Macau is something like 36%, and places in China, Shenzhen, just inland there, that's about 35%. Hainan Island, the eastern tip there, that's around 17%. Let's take you back to the latest on Florence. Leighton, anything you'd like to contribute before we finish up here?
Just keep an eye on Isaac and Florence and Mangkhut.
and as Mojet, I think it's Barrier, sorry, develops, keep an eye on that as well, because that will most likely get the flooding threat as well. Evacuate if you can, if you're in the path of Florence, because it is a very dangerous storm. Do not wait.
No.
If you can get out, get out.
And just a question just came in there. In your opinion, will Florence become a Category 5?
If it can reorganise quick enough.
You still think it could?
It's got maybe 12, 24 hours to do it.
Yeah, I'd sort of agree with that.
If it's gonna do it, it's gotta do it in that time.
It really doesn't matter whether it does or not, does it?
Not really, no. Don't pay attention to the winds. Well, pay attention to the winds obviously, but don't solely pay attention to the winds. It's water that kills most people during a hurricane, typhoon, cyclone, whatever it is.
I must say, it's starting to look a little bit better.
Yeah, that band is starting to wrap around again. There's even bits of -70, -80 popping up now as well.
Crazy times we're living in right now.
Gonna be interesting to see what Hurricane Florence in a few hours.
This is September in the Atlantic, folks, and we're seeing it at its worst. 2 storms that are now threatening land areas imminently. Hurricane watches in effect for Martinique, Dominica, and Guadeloupe. Tropical storm watches in effect for St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua. Hurricane watches in effect from Edisto Beach to the North Carolina-Virginia border, and those watches and warnings could be extended and upgraded later on tomorrow or even tonight perhaps. That's all from us for now. We're keeping the automated stream running. We're handing it over to that now, which will show you the latest images. We will have more updates later on. There's an update on Florence at 3 PM Eastern, an update on Mangkhut at 4 AM Philippine time, and an update and a live update. We're doing coverage beginning at 5 PM Eastern. Stay tuned. Don't go away. We'll be back.